Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And you are listening to us on WQEE 99.1 FM The Key. You can catch an episode here from 2 to 3 Monday through Friday, right after Rod Peterson, right before Braves Country Today with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. We've got a jam-packed show for you. It is the Monday show, the weekend recap. I'm going to recap high school football, college football, the NFL, even talk a little baseball playoffs. But let's get right into the show as I have an announcement to make. I'm going to be at Mike and Ed's barbecue tonight for the Glenwood Gators Coaches Show. Tomorrow, Thrip Behringer and I will be live at Happy Hour Bar and Grill at 7 o'clock for the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. It will be our second show that will be live in person, and I know that I'm excited about that. Had a busy weekend, called some high school football games. I called the Smith Station Opelika game. Thrip Behringer called the Glenwood Autauga Academy game. I will get into those games. And then yesterday we had the CB Hoops Perfect Practice Fall League on the campus of St. Anne Pacelli, and unfortunately we did not have a championship game, because Auburn and Central were going to play in the championship game, but because they are region opponents, they decided, the coaches did not want their players to play in this game because they're probably going to face each other at least 3 or 4 times in the regular season. I can't believe high school basketball is a month away. We're about to wrap up the high school football season, and that's where I'm going to start. Week 9 in the books for high school football in the Chattahoochee Valley. And we did have some games, like I mentioned, Glenwood getting their 4th region championship in school history. They defeated Autauga Academy 42-7. And I was at TC Britton Field, Panther Stadium, with Michael Long Jr., the Carver head baseball coach, as we called the Opelika Smith Station game. Opelika wins the game 42-14, but it was exciting. It was a 2-score game going into the 4th quarter as Aubrey Wimberly started the party with Smith Station with that kickoff return for a touchdown to make it 7-0. And Smith Station's fans are loyal. They were into it. It's just that Opelika, one of the top teams in the Chattahoochee Valley, which, speaking of which, I will reveal my top 10 teams for East Alabama and for West Georgia after the scoreboard show. So let's go ahead and get into some of the scores that happened on Friday. Lynette, they get the win over Lafayette. Possibly could play Lafayette for the first time, the last time in school history. Valley, they're going to make the playoffs for the first time since 2019. They get the win over Tallahassee 48-14. Chambers Academy, they keep on rolling, 7 straight wins. They defeat Macon East 36-0. And then you have Lee Scott Academy that continues to win. They beat Valiant Cross 34-0. Reeltown is still undefeated. They are riding high, 48-6 over Horseshoe Bend. You have Pike Road defeating winless Russell County 63-27. Westover, they get their first region win as they defeat the Hardaway Hawks 27-0. The Shaw Raiders, they lose on the road to one of the top teams in their region, Bainbridge, 49-7. And now we have a matchup on Thursday at Kinnett Stadium that could determine who gets into the playoffs between Shaw and Hardaway. We have Thomasville. They get a 51-0 win over Columbus. You had Carver, huge road win over Crisp County, 24-7. Carver is 5-3 on the year. They are 3-0 in region play. And the stage is set Thursday night at Otis Spencer Stadium. Carver is going to take on Monroe, and this could determine the region. Carver wins this game, they will win the region. And I'm going to go ahead and tease it. Thrip Behringer and I are going to be live at Otis Spencer Stadium Thursday night to call the Monroe-Carver game. I'm excited because it's going to be my first Carver game. I know it's our second Carver game that we've called here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Of course, Thrip Behringer and DJ Jones called the Heritage Bowl in week 2. Northgate defeats Northside 31-28. Northside is 4-4, still winless in the region. They are 0-2. They had a 28-14 lead in this game, but Northgate came back. They get a very crucial region victory, and Northgate is going to play Harris County Friday in the county, the two top teams in the region. Northside is going to host Drew, and Northside has got to win this game. This is a must-win game for Northside if they want to make the playoffs. Pacelli getting a big win over Strong Rock, 30-0. You had Brookstone. They get back into the win column, defeating Crawford County 64-16. Calvary goes to 4-4. They lose their first game in the Gaps as they lose to Kings Academy 27-3. And then we had a Saturday game as the Central Red Devils, they defeated Percy Julian 35-6. And now the stage is set Friday night. I'm calling it. This is the Sports Beats High School game of the week. Probably the game of the year. Central and Auburn playing Friday at Duck Stanford Stadium in Auburn. That is going to be an absolutely incredible environment. I'm just excited about high school football coming up this weekend. We've got week 10. We've got a slate of Thursday night games. We also have a slate of big time Friday night games as well. All right. Well, it's about that time on the show. I'm going to reveal my top 10 teams for East Alabama and my top 10 teams for West Georgia. I'm going to start with East Alabama. Here we go. Number 1. The Central Red Devils, they are 7-0. Yes, they are going to play on a short week facing Auburn. They did defeat Auburn up at the Duck 2 years ago. Beat Auburn in the regular season last year, lost to them in the playoffs in the semifinals 14-13. Anytime these two teams play, you know it's going to be a playoff preview. I feel that Central is firing on all cylinders. They could have put up more than 35 points against Percy Julian. But Andrew Alford, he's only a junior. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the state of Alabama. Auburn's got a very stout defense. They're resilient. They were able to come back and get that win over Opelika 31-30. They're fresh off a bye. They're well rested, and Coach Etheridge is going to have his Auburn team ready to play. Number 2, the Glenwood Gators. They are 8-0. They get the big win over Autauga Academy 42-7. And now they will host Morgan Academy on senior night at Sammy Howard Field at the Swamp. And Glenwood trying to win their first state championship since 1993 rather. And Glenwood has just got a great team. I can't wait for the Glenwood Gators coaches show, talking to Coach Nelson. He's also going to be a guest at Happy Hour tomorrow. So that is going to be fun. Number 3, Lee Scott. Lee Scott Academy is still a great team. Now, they did lose to Glenwood 41-32, but it was a back-and-forth game. Glenwood got some turnovers. It could have gone either way. Coach Buster Daniels got a very good team, the defending AISA champions. They play at a high level. They've been mowing down their opponents. With the exception of a 14-7 close victory over Chambers Academy week 1, Lee Scott Academy has beat every opponent they faced except Glenwood. And they got a big one this upcoming week, taking on Fort Dale Academy, who also has one loss to Glenwood. And this could determine seeding when we get into the playoffs, especially I think these two teams are going to meet in the semifinals. But I really like the quarterback, Pelzer Reeves, for Lee Scott Academy. Number 4, the Auburn Tigers. I already mentioned them. They are hosting Central at the Duck, fresh off their bye. They're looking pretty good, 6-1. Number 5, the Locha Poca Indians, 7-0. They have got a big game this Thursday night. They do play a lot of Thursday night games because their football stadium is under construction. They did get the victory against Autaugaville on Thursday at Beulah High School. I had to figure that one out. All right. Number 6, Reeltown, 7-0, taking on Laverne, also undefeated. And they are just firing on all cylinders. Number 6. Number 6, Reeltown, 7-0. Number 7, Chambers Academy, 7-1. They are on the road against Hooper Academy. Number 8, Valley. Valley is 5-2 on the season, and their 2 losses are to Hanley and Charles Henderson. I mean, both teams compete for state titles, and they are going to be on the road taking on another tough region opponent, Elmore County. Number 9, the Eufaula Tigers. They are 5-3. They did lose to Charles Henderson 51-31. They can weather the storm by trying to get a big road victory this Friday against Rehoboth. Eufaula is one of those teams. They've had a lot of talent. They could compete for a state championship in 5A. And I snuck Opelika into my top 10. Yes, I could have put Beauregard here, but Opelika is 4-4. But look at the teams they lost to: Thompson, Central, Theodore, Auburn. All 4 teams compete for state championships. I love this quarterback, Roman Gagliano, and they have a chance to sneak into the playoffs. Right now, Dothan is in 3rd place. Opelika is right behind them. Dothan's in 4th place. Opelika is in 5th place. They will face Dothan to wrap up the season. I'm hoping to have Philip Jordan on the show next week so we can preview that game. But Opelika taking on Enterprise on the road. I give Opelika a chance to try to win this game. Right now, Enterprise is in 3rd place in the region. Remember, only 4 teams make the playoffs. That was East Alabama. Now it's time for West Georgia. Number 1, Schley County. Really, Schley County is the standard when it comes to a state championship contender, as they have just a great team, but they have a big matchup in Ellaville this Friday against Manchester. Schley County is 7-0. I mean, they've beat the teams they have been expected to beat, the teams they lost to last year. Tatnall Square Academy, Blakely County, they were able to beat both of them. They got a big win over Taylor County. They're taking on Manchester. Number 2, Troup County. I still have Troup County high in my rankings, even though Teo Todd is out for the season. Logan Sinkfield doing a fine job filling in at quarterback. They are 6-1. They got a Thursday night game at Callaway Stadium against Fayette County. They still got to play Trinity Christian, and they still got to play LaGrange. But Troup County trying to win this division, this region, for the 2nd straight time, and that would just be a great accomplishment for head coach Tanner Glisson. Number 3, Harris County. Harris County, 6-1. They have won 6 straight. They moved up in the rankings. They are now ranked 18th, according to Max Preps, for the 5A poll. And they will take on Northgate, who's 5-2. This is going to be a huge clash for the region. Number 4, the LaGrange Grangers. They are still continuing to win, consistent. They only have 1 region loss. They're 5-2. They will host Trinity Christian on Friday at Callaway Stadium. Trinity Christian is also 5-2. This is going to be a big region matchup for the LaGrange Grangers. Number 5, the Pacelli Vikings. After losing to Glenwood, all Pacelli did has won. All they've done is win. 7 straight wins. They get a shutout win over a 6-1 team, Strong Rock Christian Academy. They will have a bye, and then next week they will travel up to Noonan, Georgia to take on the Heritage Hawks. Number 6, Callaway. They're 4-2. They got a big Thursday night win over Towers. They are 3-0 in the region, and we all know what happened week 1. They beat Cedartown, but it turned out to be a forfeit loss. They lost to Troup County when Troup County was completely healthy. Coach Wiggins has got a championship team, but they have a huge test when they go down to Stockbridge to take on Eagles Landing Christian Academy, one of the top private schools in Georgia. Number 7, I got to put them on here. A big shout out to the public address announcer for Flint River Academy, Joe Howard. Flint River, 7-0 on the season. They are taking on Fullington Academy in Woodbury. Always a great environment, as Thrip Behringer and I called a Calvary Christian Flint River game in Woodbury, and it was just an incredible atmosphere. Flint River looks like a championship contender for the GIAA in Class 1. Number 8, the Carver Tigers. They continue rolling. They are 5-3 on the season, getting a big win, 24-7 over Crisp County on the road. And they have got a big game this Thursday night at Otis Spencer Stadium against Monroe for the region title. Number 9, the Manchester Blue Devils, 6-1, as they will face Schley County in a top 10 matchup for GHSA Division 1. And finally, number 10, I could have gone either way with this one, but I decided to put the Spencer Greenway back in my top 10 list for West Georgia. They are 5-2, undefeated in the region. They still got 2 tough road games ahead. This Friday, they travel to Macon to take on the 6-1 Northeast. This is a team that has beaten Carver, and they are a very good team. And then later on, they will take on Ace Charter in Macon on the road. 2 tough region opponents. And that is my top 10 for East Alabama and my top 10 for West Georgia. Such a list. I enjoy doing that list. I love it. All right, I want to talk a little bit about college football because, look, we had some games. First of all, Friday night. I didn't really touch upon this because this game happened late. Colorado and Stanford. This is one of those games where I thought Colorado was going to win. Colorado blew a 29-point lead. They lose to Stanford in overtime. And the things that were going through my mind, I'm thinking maybe Colorado has been overhyped, but maybe the resiliency of Stanford. I doubted Stanford because I thought Stanford was a terrible team. Here's the thing is you can never take your foot off the gas. Colorado started getting cocky, and I thought to myself, I don't know if this is a team that could even win a bowl game. They got a very tough schedule in the Pac-12. But Stanford showed that they can get the win 46-43 in double overtime. I mean, seriously, a 29-0 comeback win. Some of the other games Friday night, Tulane defeated Memphis 31-21. Fresno State defeated Utah State 37-32 on the road. Let's talk about that Georgia-Vanderbilt game. Georgia was down 7-0. Brock Bowers did get hurt in this game. The latest report that I'm seeing, we don't have the MRI results yet. Coach Smart thinks it could be an ankle sprain. Let's hope it's not a high ankle sprain. If it's a low ankle sprain, Georgia has the bye, and then they will play Florida in 2 weeks. Georgia's still number 1 in the new AP poll. I think Georgia's going to be fine. This was a road game that was a little tricky. They didn't play their best. Vanderbilt hung around. Vanderbilt's got a decent defense. But, I mean, come on. I saw the crowd. This was practically a home game for Georgia. You had more Georgia fans than Vanderbilt fans. Vanderbilt is, one of the bottom feeders in the SEC. And anytime you have a team like Georgia with a big target on their back and you lose your best weapon, it's hard to overcome. And Georgia narrowly escaped with the win. Yeah, it was really close when Vanderbilt scored that touchdown to make it 27-14. I was saying, all right, Georgia, you're going to have to put this team away. And that's what they did. They get the 17-point win. They are 7-0, and they are going into their bye week. And in 2 weeks, we got the Georgia-Florida game down in Jacksonville. Michigan had no problem with Indiana. I actually think that Michigan is the best team in college football. I think that Michigan should be the new number 1. Ohio State. Now, here's the tricky thing. Georgia's got the bye next week. Ohio State plays Penn State next week. Ohio State, no problem over Purdue 41-7. If Ohio State beats Penn State, I think they are going to jump everybody in the polls and get the new number 1 ranking because I'm starting to see a pattern. You're seeing teams like Oklahoma and Washington that skyrocket in the polls when they get a top 10 win. I think if Ohio State beats Penn State, that is going to happen. Now, if Penn State knocks off Ohio State in an upset, I think Penn State jumps all the way up to 3. I think that's how they look at Ohio State as a team that's right on the bottom behind Georgia and Michigan. Still a great team, but you got to remember they still have a freshman quarterback in Kyle McCord. Another team that I think is going to make the college football playoff is Florida State. They get the 41-3 victory over Syracuse. I'm looking at their schedule. Unless Florida continues to improve, which they have, they're 5-2. They got a very impressive win over South Carolina. I think that's the toughest test is Florida, and then possibly facing a team in the ACC. They're not going to face Clemson, but they could face somebody in the ACC that could give them a scare. Maybe North Carolina. I think North Carolina still undefeated after getting the win over Miami. Let's talk about Alabama. 24-21, they get the victory, but it was a very close contested game. They went up 24-6. KJ Jefferson threw 2 touchdowns. Arkansas got the ball back. Alabama had to punt the ball 3 straight times. Arkansas got the ball back with a chance to win. But you know what good teams do? They step up when it matters the most. Dallas Turner gets a big sack on KJ Jefferson, and Alabama narrowly gets by with a 3-point win over Arkansas. A lot closer than Alabama fans expected. But this is the type of Alabama team you're going to get all year. I think it's going to be a game against LSU. I cannot wait for that LSU game because I believe LSU can hang with Alabama, as LSU had a dominating win over Auburn, 48-18. They scored on their first 4 possessions. Yes, it was 20-7 at the half. But I look at Auburn, and I think that they are rebuilding under first-year head coach Hugh Freeze, and that is about it. Jaden Daniels, with that slip-up against Florida State and, that dogfight against Ole Miss, LSU has been mowing down the rest of their opponents, and they only have 1 loss in SEC West play. They could, if they beat Alabama, go to Atlanta and represent once again in the SEC championship, the West. I like the win over Missouri, 38-21. They are 6-1. And the thing about Missouri, they play South Carolina next week. You realize if Missouri beats South Carolina, they could face Georgia in 3 weeks for the right for the SEC East. I think that Missouri is in the driver's seat. If they beat Georgia, they have an outside shot. Still a long way to go. They still got to play Tennessee. They still got to play Florida. But Missouri controls their own destiny, and this is a very good road victory against a Kentucky team that, they lost a lot of momentum losing 51-13 last week to Georgia. Some of the other scores here in college football, I'm just going to run down some of the local scores. Belhaven defeats LaGrange 42-20. LaGrange is winless. This is a rebuilding year under their first-year head coach. They will take on Maryville next week on the road, October the 21st. Union defeats Point 20-13, and Point is 3-4 on the season. They're back at Ram Stadium this Saturday, October 21st, against Reinhardt University out of Waleska, Georgia. And West Georgia gets the 35-24 victory over Chowan, and they are 4-2 on the season. They're going to host North Greenville next week at University Stadium in Carrollton, Georgia, and they are 4-2 on the season. Mercer drops a game to Chattanooga. Both teams going into this game 4-2, 22-10 at Five Star Stadium, and Mercer is 4-3 on the season. James Madison still undefeated in the Sun Belt. They get the 41-13 win over Georgia Southern. Georgia State, they get the 41-24 victory over Marshall. And then you have Troy shutting out Army on the road up at West Point, 19-0, and Troy is 5-2. They're currently in first place on their side of the bracket in the Sun Belt. The defending Sun Belt champions playing very well. And the new AP poll is out for college football. And let me tell you something. We did have some teams that jumped in the polls. The one team of note that fell all the way down to number 18 is USC. USC doesn't have a defense. They got exposed by Notre Dame. I think Washington, that jumped all the way up to number 5 the last time they were ranked this high. They made the college football playoff in 2016. Can this Washington Huskies team go undefeated and make the college football playoff? I tell you one thing, Michael Penix Jr. has catapulted himself in the Heisman race. I don't think we're going to get a back-to-back champion. Caleb Williams, after losing to Notre Dame, he is still probably going to get invited to New York, but I don't think he's going to win the Heisman Trophy. I think it's going to be Michael Penix Jr., the transfer from Indiana that has really had control of this Washington Huskies offense. Some of the teams that jumped into the top 25, Missouri is now ranked 20. You have Air Force. They are 6-0. They are ranked 22nd. Tulane jumps into the top 25. They are 23rd. Remember, their only loss was to Ole Miss. And then Iowa getting a big win over Wisconsin. They are 6-1. Cade McNamara, the transfer from Michigan, doing a very good job with Iowa and their longest tenured head football coach, Kirk Ferentz, who's been there since 1999. When you think of Iowa, you think of tight end U. I think of that team that lost to Stanford in 2015 in the Rose Bowl. Iowa also beat Georgia Tech in the Orange Bowl in 2009. Iowa's had their opportunities to be great. They even represented the Big Ten West in the Big Ten championship. The Iowa Hawkeyes, they get back into the rankings. And if you took the under on the over and under, you'd had a pretty good day, because that was a defensive battle against Wisconsin, who has been a very disappointing team. I think the Wisconsin Badgers, under first-year head coach Luke Fickell, has underachieved. All right, that is my look at college football. We're going to go ahead and take a break right here on the show. And when we come back, I'm going to have my NFL recap, including the Atlanta Falcons. Is it time to pull the plug on Desmond Ridder? And probably the biggest upset in the NFL yesterday. I'm not talking about the Eagles losing to the Jets. That was an upset. I'm talking about the San Francisco 49ers losing to the Cleveland Browns. All right, we'll be right back. This is Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Welcome back to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. You are listening to us on WQEE 99.1 FM The Key out of Newton, Georgia. And it is time for my NFL recap. The Atlanta Falcons, they lose to the Washington Commanders 24-16. Do not blame that on the defense. The defense kept them in that game. It's Desmond Ridder's inability to make plays when the run game gets stuffed. The Commanders have a pretty good defense. They stopped the run. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, they could not get going. They forced Desmond Ridder to pass. And I'm looking at the stats. Desmond Ridder threw the ball 47 times. He throws 3 interceptions. He was sacked 3 times. I don't think Desmond Ridder is the answer at quarterback. I wanted to be a believer from last week when he had his best passer rating in his career, but this was a game the Falcons should have won. The good thing is the Saints and the Buccaneers lost, so this division is wide open. But the Atlanta Falcons lose to the Washington Commanders that snap a 3-game losing streak, and Sam Howell with 3 touchdown passes. The Falcons rushed for 106 yards, but they averaged 3.7 yards a carry. This is not going to get it done. You need to find a way to stick with the run, even if the run is not working. But Desmond Ridder gets into situations too many times where he has to throw the ball. And there are times where he's finding the wide open players. I mean, Van Jefferson was only targeted twice. I thought that they should have got Van Jefferson more involved in the offense. But you got some great receivers. Drake London, Kyle Pitts. They're the type of receivers that can get big third downs. But Desmond Ridder makes too many mistakes. And now the Atlanta Falcons are 3-3. And they're taking on the Buccaneers next week. That's going to be for the division. Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I thought they were going to win this game, but they lose to the Detroit Lions 20-6, and the Buccaneers are now 3-2. How about those Detroit Lions? One of the top teams in the NFC. They are 5-1. And right now, they are running away with this division. Vikings, they beat the Bears 19-13. Minnesota's going to be without Justin Jefferson for a while, but Jordan Addison, he fits quite nicely. The Miami Dolphins, they keep the Carolina Panthers winless by getting the 42-21 victory over the Panthers. The Dolphins were up 14. The Panthers were up 14-0 in this game, and the Dolphins, they just pile it on. And they got a big one Sunday night next week as they will take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Speaking of the Philadelphia Eagles, they are undefeated no more. They lose to the New York Jets 20-14. And the other team that is no longer undefeated is the San Francisco 49ers. Probably the biggest upset of the year. They lose to the Cleveland Browns 19-17. And I do have some takeaways on this game. Because I'm a 49ers fan, I'm going to elaborate on this. The 49ers did lose in a hostile environment. It was a soggy weather conditions. The Cleveland Browns have a pretty good defense, and Brock Purdy is human. He finally throws an interception. He gets his first loss in a game where he starts and finishes. But the 49ers did not have Dre Greenlaw on the defense. They did not have Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey for the majority of this game. George Kittle wasn't even the primary target. He didn't even have a catch. But yet, still, even with all that, with the missed field goals, with the penalties, the 49ers had a chance as Brock Purdy marched them down the field, a big reception by Brandon Ayuk. They are in position to kick the game-winning field goal. I feel bad for rookie Jake Moody. That's a pressure kick. A 41-yard kick, yeah, it's normally automatic, but when you're in a hostile environment in the dog pound, you're a rookie kicker. He hooks it wide right, and the 49ers lose their first game of the season. They'll bounce back. They should get some people healthy. Still don't know the MRI on Deebo Samuel or Christian McCaffrey, but they will face the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football next week in Minnesota. And I like the 49ers' chances because it's Kirk Cousins in prime time. So that's going to be a very interesting game. And plus the 49ers, they rarely lose back-to-back games in the Kyle Shanahan era. They'll find a way to get off the mat and get that win. It's only the first loss of the season. I expect the 49ers to go 14-3, get the number one seed, and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. But hey, I'm just a skeptical 49ers fan that thinks nothing but the best for what I think is the most brilliant mind in football, Kyle Shanahan. And Brock Purdy still is a good quarterback. I would not say he's elite just yet because I think in order for him to be elite, he would have to overcome everything. The weather, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey out, and he could not do that because the Browns have a pretty good defense. And look, if you're a 49ers fan, you're thinking, how could you lose to the lowly Browns? They didn't even have Deshaun Watson. They had P.J. Walker. Well, Walker can throw the ball down the field, and one weakness I pointed out in the 49ers is that their corners aren't Pro Bowl corners, and Amari Cooper got open a couple of times, and that really burned the 49ers, and the Browns were able to capitalize on getting a touchdown the first drive and then getting a field goal. All right, let's move along. The Houston Texans, they're 3-3, getting a win over the Saints. I am a believer in C.J. Stroud. I feel that he is the best rookie quarterback to come out of this draft. And DeMeco Ryans, he's my candidate for Coach of the Year. You got to remember how bad the Texans have been the past couple of years. DeMeco Ryans has got the Texans believing. The Texans D comes up big. C.J. Stroud with 2 touchdown passes. They get the victory. You got the Jacksonville Jaguars beating the Indianapolis Colts 37-20 as the Jaguars, they're starting to hit their stride. They're starting to build up on those weapons. I like what Trevor Lawrence is doing. He's got Calvin Ridley. He's got Christian Kirk. He's got Evan Ingram. You got Travis Etienne. They got some good weapons. I think the Jaguars are going to be fine. The Bengals, they're starting to get into a rhythm, As Joe Burrow continues to get healthy, this is a dangerous team. They beat the Seahawks 17-13. The international game in London, no surprise that the Baltimore Ravens defeated the Tennessee Titans. Ryan Tannehill is going to be out for a while. Malik Willis came in. I still think that Malik Willis is going to be battling for that starting quarterback job. The bottom line is the Titans need a quarterback. There's a lot of great quarterbacks coming up in the 2024 NFL draft. Not to mention, just probably the greatest that has come out of the draft since Andrew Luck. I'm talking about Caleb Williams. But we'll see what happens. I don't think these teams are going to be tanking. Hey, that Sunday night football game, the Giants had a chance to win it. Tyrod Taylor was in for the injured Daniel Jones. They lose 14-9 to the Buffalo Bills. You had the Rams, no problem with the Arizona Cardinals, 26-9. Bill Belichick is in trouble. The Las Vegas Raiders defeat the New England Patriots 21-17. Jimmy Garoppolo does get hurt. Don't know how long he's going to be out for. But the New England Patriots are 1-5. This is unfamiliar territory. Well, in 2000, Bill Belichick did go 5-11. But that was Tom Brady's rookie year, and Drew Bledsoe was the starting quarterback. We are starting to see Bill Belichick as a coach without Tom Brady, without a great GM, without his offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, without his offensive line coach, Dante Scarnecchia, without his defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia. We are starting to see Bill Belichick as he's getting up there in age. I think Bill Belichick is done. I think he needs to go out on his own terms. He deserves that. He is a Hall of Fame head coach, probably one of the greatest head coaches of all time. But the skepticism is that he can't do it without Tom Brady. Yes, he does a great job coaching up the defense. He can't draft skilled position players. Mac Jones is not the answer at quarterback. Mac Jones, looking at it, he got sacked 3 times. He had an interception, 24 or 33. They could not run the ball. Ramondre Stevenson, Ezekiel Elliott, that's not the answer at running back. They got to find a way to get a good elite running back. You remember back in the 2003 season when the New England Patriots got Corey Dillon from the Bengals, and that's all they needed to win the Super Bowl. Because remember, it seemed like they were a one-hit wonder. They miss out on the playoffs in 2002. They go 9-7, and then all of a sudden the Patriots start becoming this dynasty because they had the missing piece. I think this team needs to get a good running back, but they got to find some skilled wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins was available. Why didn't you go get him? Why did you let Jacoby Myers just walk? Hey, maybe Josh Gordon is available. But the Patriots are in trouble. They're 1-5. It's not going to get any easier when they have to take on the Buffalo Bills next week. Looking down the other scores in the National Football League, I love NFL Week 6. This is absolutely incredible. I covered just about every team. We do have a Monday Night Football game tonight. It is the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Chargers. I expect the Cowboys to bounce back, get the victory, and we have just an amazing NFL schedule next week. So who are my top 5 teams in the NFL? Well, the 2 undefeated teams that were left both lost. And so now the 72 Dolphins can celebrate once again. It's the 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Despite the loss, I still think the 49ers are the best team in the NFL. But right behind them is the Kansas City Chiefs. So I got the 49ers 1, the Kansas City Chiefs 2. You can flip-flop those 2 teams, but that's my 1 and 2 teams. My number 3 team is the Miami Dolphins. Then I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Those are my top 4 teams in the NFL. I'm going to try to get a 5th team, and I'm not just going based off a record. Yeah, I could put the Detroit Lions at number 5 because they are 5-1, but I'm going to put the Buffalo Bills at number 5. I think the Buffalo Bills have a great team despite their record that could compete and go to the Super Bowl. I think the Bills can challenge the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not too sure that the Miami Dolphins can challenge the Kansas City Chiefs because that would mean that Tua would have to outduel Patrick Mahomes, and that's not how Miami is built. Although Mike McDaniel is the whiz kid, he's the genius. I still think that the Kansas City Chiefs are the team to beat in the AFC. And I don't really take anything from the 49ers loss to a Cleveland Browns team on the road that is a decent team, that has a good defense. Yeah, they were without Deshaun Watson. He makes a lot of mistakes. PJ Walker, he is a game manager. He came in, he got the job done. So I'm excited about this upcoming week in the National Football League. Major League Baseball last night, game one of the ALCS, and the Texas Rangers in the Lone Star Showdown. They get the 2-0 victory as Jordan Montgomery outduels Justin Verlander, and they are up 1-0 in the ALCS. I still think the Astros are the team to beat and are the favorites to win the World Series. You look at what the Astros have accomplished. 7 straight ALCSs. That is absolutely incredible. And the two players that have been there the entire time, Jose Altuve and Alex Bregman, these two players have been catalysts for the Houston Astros. And look at all the players that the Astros have lost over the past couple of years. Carlos Correa, Yuri Gurriel. You've lost many, many players. George Springer. I mean, the list goes on. And the Houston Astros find a way to get back to the ALCS. And I think that Dusty Baker, the former San Francisco Giants manager, he became the manager back in 1993 all the way until 2002, where he led the Giants to the World Series, taking on the 3-time World Series champion Bruce Bochy. Because I'm a Giants fan, I'm going to have invested interest in this series because it's two former San Francisco Giants managers. All right, game one of the NLCS is tonight. The Diamondbacks taking on the Phillies. They did name their starting pitchers. Zach Gallen taking on Zach Wheeler of the Philadelphia Phillies. The Diamondbacks, in my mind, are the team of destiny. They were the number 6 seed. They swept the Dodgers. They were able to upset the Brewers in the wild card round. The Diamondbacks, who have not made it to the World Series and won it since 2001, their storybook franchise really started off with a bang. An expansion team in 1998. They win the World Series in 2001 behind the arms of Curt Schilling and Randy Johnson. They make the playoffs a couple of years in between. They were in the NLCS back in 2007, but lost to the Rockies. Now they're back. Yes, the Phillies are the favorites, but I like the Diamondbacks' chance in the NLCS as well. I'm hoping for a Rangers-Diamondbacks World Series because I do not want to see a repeat World Series of the Astros and the Phillies. I mean, come on. Who wants to see that again? All right, we did have WNBA Finals, and the New York Liberty, they hold on. They get the 87-73 victory over the Las Vegas Aces. The Liberty aren't done yet. You know, this historic franchise has been around since 1997. Rebecca Lobo was their first player. They have not won an NBA title or WNBA title. No, in their history. That is absolutely fascinating that they have not won a WNBA title. Well, they stave off elimination. They will go back at it. Game 4 of the WNBA Finals this Wednesday, taking on the Las Vegas Aces at the Garden, Madison Square Garden. Nope, at the Barclays Center. I got to get that one right. All right, Major League Soccer. I'm just going to fly by all these sports. We had, in our first segment, we had high school football, college football. I'm going to talk a little sports because Atlanta United, right now, they are the number 6 seed as they try to get into the playoffs. Playoffs, that's right. The MLS playoffs. Still a huge Atlanta United fan. I want to see them do well. I want to see them this Saturday taking on FC Cincinnati. That will be the final regular season game before they start in the playoffs. And if you look at the tables, so the first 7 positions qualify for the playoffs. Positions 8 and 9 qualify for the wild card matchups. 8 and 9 has got Montreal and DC United. You got Atlanta that will probably play the Philadelphia Union in the first round of the MLS playoffs. Look, Atlanta United is not supposed to be here. When they lost Josef Martinez, everybody thought that this was going to be a rebuilding year. They make the playoffs. Good for Atlanta United. I really wanted to see Lionel Messi in the playoffs, but Inter Miami, they finish in 14th place. But next year, I'm telling you, Inter Miami is going to be the team to beat in the MLS because you're going to get Lionel Messi for a full season. Such great sporting events. NHL. Here's right now the team that has the best record in the NHL is the Vegas Golden Knights, the defending Stanley Cup champions. And what a season they had last year. They're off to a hot start. They are 3-0. How are my Sharks doing? Not so good. 1-1. You got the Colorado Avalanche that won the Stanley Cup 2 seasons ago. They got 4 points. The Pittsburgh Penguins, which it seems that the core players of Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, they have just stayed together all these years. The Penguins know how to win. And then you got Boston, Toronto, and Ottawa all with 4 points. I just want to see Toronto do well. We know that Boston might compete for a President's Trophy, but we'll see how that goes. Hey, NBA preseason going on. Damian Lillard makes his Milwaukee Bucks debut. They do beat the Lakers. The Warriors do beat the Kings in overtime. The NBA season is fast approaching. Tuesday, October 24th, you got the Lakers taking on the defending NBA champion Denver Nuggets, the Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, all those players, Devin Booker, new look Phoenix Suns team, one of the top teams in the West, taking on the Golden State Warriors at the Chase Center. Wednesday, October 25th, the Atlanta Hawks are in action in Charlotte, taking on the Charlotte Hornets at the Spectrum Center on the road. And the Atlanta Hawks' first game at State Farm Arena is going to be Friday, October 27th against the New York Knicks. And I will have my NBA preview show. I hope to have Gabe Reynolds on tomorrow so we can have our NBA preview show as well. And that is going to do it for me here from the Sports Beat. I want to thank everybody who has watched my show, liked and subscribed to the YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Facebook channel as well. And also give a like and subscribe to the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Facebook page. I do a lot of stuff on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We got the Glenwood Gators Coaches Show tonight at Mike and Ed's Barbecue. Tomorrow, we're going to be at Happy Hour Bar Grill for the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. Thrip Behringer and I will be there with incredible guests to include the Glenwood Gators head football coach Ryan Nelson, 2 Glenwood Gators players, Jack Patterson from WRBL, Jonathan Hoppy from WTVM, and the St. Anne Pacelli Vikings athletic director and men's basketball head coach, Corey Black. He's going to be on the show as well. I want to thank Ryan O'Neill back at the station for holding down the fort and giving me this opportunity that I've always wanted to do as a young broadcaster back in 1999, 2000 timeframe. I'm really aging myself here, but that's really all I wanted to do when I was in college was talk sports on the radio, do play-by-play, write sports for a newspaper, just cover everything sports related. And this platform gives me that opportunity. And for that, I am thankful and I am blessed. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.